Well, here I'm at the Moose Knuckle Bar during South by Southwest, and I'm here with filmmaker Jennifer Steinman, who directed the film Motherland. And actually, you did a bunch more than just direct. You kind of did everything for it. Could you first just describe Motherland and what it's about?
Sure. Well, Motherland is about, it follows the journey of 6 women who are 6 American mothers. And I took them on a trip to South Africa to volunteer with children there. And the one thing that they all had in common was that they had all suffered the death of a child. So it's about bringing together parents who've lost children with children who've lost parents. And it's really about grief and healing and the idea of how to make a positive meaning out of a tragedy when it happens to you.
It's a very emotional documentary. And how did you deal with doing something like that, you know, coping with the subject matter like that for days in, days out?
Well, really, I mean, the whole premise behind my film is the idea that volunteering and giving and being of service can be a healing thing to do. So for this group of women who have all really suffered this, you know, undescribable tragedy, for me, the key to the trip was really making it be about being of service, about being a volunteer trip. So, you know, while it was really emotional, it was really healing. It was a really beautiful trip. So, you know, we had some emotional days there, but I think the power of the group together and the power of the work that they were doing and the power of the beautiful country that they were in and you know, getting this like global perspective on grief is what it was really about.
And what inspired you to actually do this documentary?
Well, one of the women in the film is a good friend of mine, and she lost her son in a car accident. And I had just watched her over the years dealing with her grief and her pain, and then I was actually reading about Africa. I was really interested in Africa, and I was planning a trip for myself to go there and volunteer. And I was reading this book by Stephen Lewis, who's a UN Special Envoy on HIV and AIDS in Africa, and he has this passage in his book where he talks about, he describes Africa as an entire continent in mourning. And I thought about my friend and the depth of her pain and her loss, and then I thought about an entire nation of people who've been through, where almost everybody has lost somebody, and what that must be like, and that was what really inspired me to want to take these women there.
And at first, like, I watched the beginning of the documentary, and I noticed just how basically you're introduced to these characters and you realize that they have suffered a huge loss. And can you describe, by the end of the documentary, how their lives have kind of been affected by going to Africa and volunteering?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I hope that really comes out in the film, that when you do lose someone you love, that you don't heal necessarily. That we have this mythological idea that one day you'll just get better and one day you'll just be over it. And that's actually shouldn't really necessarily be the goal. That for these moms who've lost their kids, that the goal is actually, how do I keep this person alive and how do I keep their memory alive? And a lot of them say, I don't want to get over it. Like, I don't want it to go away. So, but how do you incorporate your pain and your loss into your new life and your new identity of who you're going to be from this point forward without that person that you loved so much? Which I think is a really universal theme that we all, you know, we're all going to lose someone we love at some point in our lives. It's part of life. So, so I think one of the most beautiful things about the film and about the trip was how they came together as a group and really supported each other as a group of women who'd been through this loss. And that, I think, was the most transformative thing about the trip, was this lesson about what it means to grieve together as a community as opposed to in isolation by yourself. And that was the thing, that was the place where they found the most healing and the most lightness, was in finding other people that they could be with, that they could talk to, that didn't make them feel like they were alone.
Right. How many cameras did you actually use on?
We had 2 cameras. I took a camera woman from the States, Mira Chang, who's very talented. She shot Jesus Camp, among other things, and Boys of Baraka. So we brought her and a sound woman from the States with us, and then we hired a second camera crew from South Africa. a camera woman and a sound guy from South Africa who turned out to be phenomenally talented, and we were all bonded together as a crew.
That's great.
Yeah.
So do you blog at all about while you were like on the trip? Did you kind of track like your day?
I'm a little behind in the blogging scene. I think I've finally mastered Facebook though, so I'm really proud of myself.
It's hard, like
it's hard to make a movie and do all that stuff all at the same time.
It is. It says a lot about our culture, I think, about people actually like to go online and read about, the daily experiences of a documentary filmmaker. So there's sort of an advantage out there for us, but at the same time, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have people every step of the way going, you should be writing this, you should be blogging this, and I would have moments of like, I would like to, but it's either that or edit my film. I've got to pick. So, but maybe next time I'll have a budget and a crew and an assistant and all these people who can help me do those things.
Well, I really, really appreciate you coming out, and I really enjoyed watching the beginning of the film, and I hope to see the rest of it. And great job. Any other additional comments that you'd like to talk about? In the process that you took to make your documentary Motherland, or.
I'd love to mention that, one of the most amazing things that's come out of the film so far is that there's a group of women in California who are so inspired by the idea that they've actually started an organization now to lead more of these healing trips for families who've lost children, and they're called Project Grace, and you can find out about them at my website, which is motherland-thefilm.com. And they've already taken 2 trips with moms to an orphanage in Mexico, and they've got another trip planned for May, so it's really cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's very inspirational.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks for having me.
So we're wrapping up the interview with Jennifer Steinman, director of Motherland.